The Will reading room was silent, its air heavy with the smell of polished wood and old secrets. Ethan sat in the corner, hands clenched in his lap, staring at the worn leather folder on the table. He hadn't seen his grandfather in years, and when the man died, Ethan expected nothing more than maybe a parcel of land or a dusty antique collection. Yet as the lawyer cleared his throat, the room felt like it was holding its breath, as if something much larger than a legal ceremony was about to unfold. The lawyer's voice was steady but cautious, like he knew the weight of the words he was about to speak. To my grandson Ethan Cole, I leave not only my estate but the most precious and dangerous gift of my life. He paused, glancing at Ethan in a way that made the young man's stomach knot. She waits for you in the cellar beneath the old house. Her name is Serenia. Ethan almost laughed, half out of disbelief, half out of unease. A person. The old man had lost his mind in his final days, surely. But then the lights flickered, a low hum vibrating through the floorboards like something was alive beneath them. The lawyer stepped back as if he had finished a ritual, not a reading. You'll see for yourself, he said, voice barely above a whisper, and left the room quickly, leaving Ethan alone with a key made of some metal he didn't recognize, cool to the touch, faintly pulsing with energy. The cellar was older than the house itself, lined with stone carved with strange patterns Ethan had never seen before. He descended the spiral steps cautiously, the light of his phone barely pushing back the shadows. At the bottom, a door stood, not wood, not steel, but something glowing faintly blue, humming like a distant engine. The key in his hand vibrated, pulling toward the door as though it were magnetized. The moment the key touched the lock, the door dissolved into light, and the air shimmered with a sharp, electric charge. A figure stood within the chamber beyond, tall and otherworldly, her skin faintly luminous like moonlight on water. Her hair drifted slightly as though caught in a breeze that wasn't there, and her eyes, impossibly bright, locked on Ethan with the cold focus of a predator sizing up prey. You are late, she said, her voice rich and smooth, carrying an accent that was not of Earth, not of anywhere Ethan knew. Ethan froze, gripping the key as if it were a weapon. Who are you? Her lips curved, not into a smile, but something sharper. Serenia. And unfortunately for both of us, I am now yours. The words slammed into him with no sense at all. Mine. Look, I think there's been a mistake. There is no mistake, she cut in, stepping forward. The faint glow around her pulsed like a heartbeat, and Ethan instinctively stepped back. Your grandfather bound me to your bloodline. He believed your species might survive because of me. But make no mistake, human. I do not belong to you. I will never belong to you. Before Ethan could answer, a rumble shook the cellar. A shadow passed over the light, and something outside, something large, moved in the trees beyond the house. Serenia's head snapped toward the sound, eyes narrowing with sharp alertness. They've already come. Faster than I thought. Who? Ethan asked, throat dry. The ones who want me back, she said darkly. The ones who will kill you to take me. Ethan's mind raced, panic rising. Then we need to get out of here. Serenia's gaze returned to him, unyielding and cold. You misunderstand. I don't care what happens to you. I only care that they do not succeed. If you get in my way, I will remove you myself. The hum of the door behind them faded, sealing them inside the ancient chamber as the shadows outside drew closer. Ethan's grip on the key tightened, but deep inside he already knew, this wasn't an inheritance. It was a trap his grandfather had left behind, a trap that had just been sprung. The air in the chamber grew heavier as shadows passed beyond the walls, and the faint humming of the strange door pulsed in rhythm with Ethan's racing heart. Serenia stood still, her glowing eyes fixed toward the unseen threat outside, as though she could feel every movement in the dark. Ethan tried to speak, but the weight of her presence silenced him. She didn't need words to command the room, she simply was command. Finally, she turned to him. The house is no longer safe. They have tracked me to this place. Once they breach the threshold, not even your grandfather's binding will protect you. Ethan swallowed hard, gripping the key like a lifeline. Who are they? What do they want? They are hunters, she replied, her voice like a warning bell in the dark. And what they want, she paused, eyes flicking over him like she was considering whether to tell him, is me. To take me back. To chain me again. Or to kill me if I refuse. Ethan stared, feeling the cold weight of something much larger than himself pressing down on him. And what happens to me if they find us? Serenya's gaze sharpened. Humans do not survive their attention. The floor vibrated with a low thrum, dust drifting from the ceiling. Somewhere above, a door splintered, wood breaking under force no human could deliver. Ethan jolted. "They are in the house," he whispered. Serenya moved closer, her glow intensifying as if she was drawing in power. Ethan flinched, unsure if she meant to shield him or strike him down. "Stay close," she commanded. "Do not speak unless I tell you. And above all, do not touch me. My control is limited." With that, she placed her palm against the glowing chamber wall. The light rippled outward like liquid metal, then peeled away, revealing a passageway Ethan was certain hadn't been there before. Cold air rushed through, carrying the faint metallic tang of ozone, and for a heartbeat Ethan thought he heard distant whispers, like the echoes of voices speaking from another world. They stepped into the tunnel, shadows flickering along its crystalline walls. Behind them, the chamber sealed itself, muting the sound of footsteps above. The hunters were close. "Where does this lead?" Ethan asked in a hushed tone. "To the edge of your world," Serenya answered without turning. "To a place where there's touch is yours. We must cross before they find the breach." Ethan stumbled, nearly losing his footing. "You're saying there's another world, another dimension?" Serenya glanced back, expression unreadable. "Did you believe your kind was alone? That life begins and ends with your skies?" Before Ethan could answer, the tunnel shuddered violently. A sharp crack echoed, metallic, alien, and a thin line of red light split across the crystalline wall to their left. Serenya grabbed his arm, not gently, and yanked him forward with surprising strength. "They found the passage," she hissed. "Run." They bolted down the corridor, the light of the breach growing brighter until it formed a door of pure energy at the end. The air buzzed with static, pulling at Ethan's skin and hair. Serenya reached it first, placing her hand upon its surface. But before it could open, a figure stepped through the tunnel wall, tall, armored, and faceless, with a weapon humming like a living blade. Another followed. And another. Ethan froze. Serenya did not. The glow around her erupted, flooding the passage with blinding light. The air cracked like thunder, and one of the armored hunters was flung back against the wall, his weapon clattering to the floor. Serenya grabbed Ethan, pulling him toward the breach as sparks tore from the crystal around them. "Move, human," she snarled. They dove through as the passage exploded in a flare of red and blue light. For a moment Ethan felt weightless, like falling through nothing and everything at once, before slamming down hard onto solid ground. But it wasn't Earth. The sky above them was purple, streaked with strange constellations. The air hummed with unseen energy, and glowing flora swayed in a wind he couldn't feel. Ethan struggled to his feet, staring in stunned silence at the alien horizon. Serenya rose beside him, eyes scanning the sky. "Welcome to my world," she said quietly. Then, with a faint smirk that didn't reach her eyes, she added, "Pray you survive it." The crimson flare cut across the alien sky like a wound, spreading ripples of red light that stained the clouds. Ethan stared upward, his stomach sinking. "What does that mean?" he asked, though deep down he already knew. Serenya didn't answer right away. Her glowing eyes scanned the horizon, jaw tight, every muscle poised. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, controlled, but laced with urgency. "It means they have our position. The hunters are coming." Ethan swallowed hard. "How many are we talking about?" Serenya's gaze finally settled on him, sharp and unyielding. "Enough to erase both of us if we stay here." She moved quickly, leading him through a narrow path carved between two jagged cliffs. Strange vines glowed faintly along the rock walls, pulsing like veins, casting eerie shadows as they ran. The ground beneath their feet thrummed, a deep vibration Ethan could feel in his bones, as if the planet itself was alive and restless. "Serenya," he said after several moments of tense silence, "I need to know, what exactly are you? And why are they so afraid of you?" Her steps slowed, though she didn't turn to face him. "You saw what I did to the trackers," she said simply. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, but that was like watching a storm fight back. No human could move like that. No human could do that." She finally turned, the faint light catching the sharp edges of her features, making her look otherworldly and almost regal. That is because I am not human. Ethan let out a shaky breath. Yeah, I figured. But what are you really? Serenia hesitated, as if weighing how much truth to reveal. Then she spoke, softer this time, almost as if it pained her to admit it. My people call me a Kinaborn, a rare anomaly. I was born with energy that should not exist. Energy that can bend matter, disrupt life, tear open rifts between worlds. They call it a gift. But to my kind, it is a curse. Ethan frowned. Why a curse? Her gaze darkened. Because power like mine cannot be controlled, or so they believe. Every Kinaborn is bound from birth, watched, guarded. Some are destroyed before they can grow strong. I survived, only to become their prisoner. Ethan absorbed this, the weight of her words sinking in. And now you're mine? Because of this inheritance thing. Her lips curved slightly, but there was no humor in it. Not yours. But bound to you, yes. The bond was their way of chaining me without chains. Tethering my life to someone they believed could never understand me, someone who could be used as leverage. Ethan blinked, realization dawning. So, I'm basically your jailer. Serenia's eyes softened, though only slightly. You were meant to be. Whether you remain so, is another matter. Before Ethan could respond, the ground ahead erupted, stone and soil spraying into the air as three figures appeared, cloaked in shimmering armor that bent the light around them. The hunters. They moved with precision, spreading out to block the path. Their weapons were sleek and alien, pulsing faintly with the same energy Ethan had seen Serenia wield. One of them spoke, voice metallic, filtered through a mask. Return with us, Serenia of the Rift, or we will end you here. The human will not survive the blast radius. Ethan froze. Serenia stepped forward, placing herself between him and the hunters, her posture calm but coiled with potential energy. I will not return, she said evenly. You know what awaits me there. Then you know what awaits you here, the hunter replied. The air thickened, the hum of their weapons growing louder. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. He wanted to move, to run, to do something, but his body wouldn't obey. Then Serenia spoke, not to them, but to him. Ethan, choose. Her words cut through the fear, leaving him confused. Choose? Choose what? Run, she said, and survive on your own, or stand with me, and see what I really am. The hunters began to advance, weapons lifting. Ethan looked at Serenia, saw the unearthly glow building in her hands, and felt the pull of something bigger than fear, something dangerous, but alive. He clenched his fists. I'm not running. Serenia's lips curved, this time with the faintest shadow of approval. Then the world exploded into light. The air cracked with a thunderous sound as Serenia unleashed her power, a burst of raw energy that surged outward like a living storm. The hunters staggered back, their armor flaring with reactive shields that hissed and sputtered under the pressure. The ground beneath Ethan's feet trembled, sending fissures racing through the alien terrain, glowing faintly with the same energy that radiated from Serenia's hands. Ethan shielded his eyes from the blinding light, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. What he saw when the glare faded stole his breath. Serenia had transformed. Her markings glowed like molten silver, her eyes no longer just bright but burning, like twin stars held in fragile flesh. She hovered inches above the ground, defying gravity as if it no longer applied to her. The hunters regrouped quickly, their weapons extending and reshaping into something more dangerous. One of them barked a command in a guttural alien tongue, and the other two flanked her, their armor shimmering with a pulsing field of light. Serenia raised her hand. The air warped, bent, and then solidified into a sharp, glowing spear of energy. With a flick of her wrist, it shot forward, piercing the barrier of the nearest hunter and slamming him into the cliff wall. The impact left a smoking crater. Ethan could hardly process it. She's holding back, he realized. This isn't even her full strength. The other two hunters attacked at once, their weapons firing streams of crackling energy that carved glowing scars into the ground. Serenia spun through the blasts, moving with an impossible grace, leaving after images of light in her wake. Each movement seemed calculated, not just to protect herself, but to keep Ethan unharmed. One blast struck close enough to knock him backward, heat searing his skin. Serenia glanced at him, and for a moment her composure faltered, just a flicker, but enough to reveal something human beneath her alien poise. "Stay down," she commanded, voice resonant with power. Ethan did as she said, though every instinct screamed to help, to fight, to do something. But what could a human do in the face of this? The remaining hunters moved to box her in. Serenia landed, crouching low, hands pressed to the ground. The alien terrain responded, glowing lines spiderwebbed outward from her touch, forming a dome of shimmering energy around them. The hunters struck it, their weapons sending violent ripples across its surface, but the barrier held, for now. Serenia turned to Ethan, her breathing shallow but controlled. "This won't last. We need to move, now." Ethan glanced at the barrier, then at the hunters pounding against it with increasing force. "Move where? We're boxed in." Her gaze flicked toward the jagged cliff behind them. "Not through them. Through there." Ethan followed her line of sight, and froze. A shimmering distortion hung in the air between two towering spires of rock. It wasn't solid, wasn't quite visible, but the light bent unnaturally around it, like water over glass. "A rift," he guessed, voice tight. "A doorway," Serenia corrected. "But it's unstable. Crossing it could tear us apart." The barrier shuddered violently as one of the hunters slammed a charged spear into it, leaving a crackling fracture in the energy dome. Ethan took a deep breath. "Then we better move before we find out what happens when it breaks." Serenia nodded, stepped toward him, and reached out her hand. He hesitated for only a heartbeat before taking it. The barrier collapsed the instant her fingers closed around his. The hunters surged forward. Serenia flung her free hand toward them, unleashing a wave of raw force that hurled them backward. Then she pulled Ethan with her, sprinting toward the rift. The distortion grew clearer with every step, vibrating like a living thing, edges sparking with arcs of pale light. The air around it felt wrong, too hot and too cold at once, as if reality itself was bleeding. "Jump!" Serenia commanded. They leapt together, the world stretching and twisting, colors fracturing, shapes melting into blinding light. And then everything went black. When Ethan's vision cleared, he was lying on soft ground beneath an alien sky that looked nothing like the one they'd left behind. Serenia stood nearby, staring into the distance, her expression unreadable. "Where are we?" he asked. Her answer was quiet. "Somewhere my people will never follow. But also somewhere far more dangerous." A sound rose in the distance. Not the clank of armor. Not the hum of weapons. But a low, resonant growl. Something had found them first. The alien sky above shimmered with streaks of green and violet, strange clouds twisting like liquid smoke. Ethan stumbled to his feet, still dazed from the rift, and looked around. The ground beneath him was soft, almost like moss, but it pulsed faintly with energy, glowing underfoot. The air was thick, carrying scents that made his head spin, metal, ozone, something sweet and alien. Every instinct screamed danger. Serenia stood a few paces away, her luminous eyes scanning the horizon. She didn't speak at first. Instead, she extended her hand, and the ground around them responded. Lines of light traced intricate patterns, forming a protective circle. "This world is alive," she said quietly. "It reacts to those who enter. Some of its creatures are curious. Some are deadly. We must tread carefully." Ethan swallowed hard. "Deadly? Like, how deadly?" Before she could answer, a movement rippled through the glowing foliage ahead. Shapes emerged, tall, sinewy, with limbs that bent in impossible angles and eyes that glowed like molten gold. They circled, whispering in a language Ethan couldn't understand, their voices vibrating through the air and deep into his chest. "They can sense fear," Serenia said, tone clipped. "If you falter, they will strike. But if you move with me, we can survive." Ethan's heart pounded. "Move with you?" She looked at him, expression sharp. "Yes. Or die trying." The creatures advanced, yet as Serenia raised her hand, they hesitated. A subtle pulse of energy radiated from her, bending the creatures' perception, slowing their movements. Ethan realized she was not just defending, they were obeying, at least for a moment. "Follow me," she ordered. "And do not let them touch you." They ran, weaving through forests of glowing flora that seemed almost sentient. Vines stretched toward them, brushing against Ethan like probing fingers, but Serenia cut them aside with flicks of her hand, each motion precise and almost effortless. He tried to keep pace, stumbling often, lungs burning, but she never slowed. After what felt like hours, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley bathed in luminous fog. Ethan gasped. Hundreds of creatures moved below, vast shapes hunting, sniffing, listening. And in the center, a figure stood, tall, armored in strange reflective metal, eyes fixed on them. One of the hunters. "They've come," Serenia whispered. "They always do." Ethan felt a surge of panic. "We can't fight them all." Serenia's lips curved in a faint, grim smile. "No. But we don't have to." Before he could ask, she pressed her hand to the ground, sending a wave of energy rolling through the valley. The hunters staggered, creatures below faltered, and for a heartbeat, the entire area went still, suspended between worlds. Ethan realized then, her power was beyond anything he could imagine, a force that could bend reality itself, yet she restrained it. "You're amazing," he said breathlessly, awed and terrified. Her gaze met his, glowing fiercely. "Don't mistake or for understanding, human. My gift is dangerous, not just to them, but to you, to everyone. One wrong step, and this world will devour you." They continued moving, taking narrow paths and leaping over rivers of luminescent water, creatures stalking them silently. The farther they went, the more Ethan began to glimpse fragments of her past, visions of her people, wars that spanned stars, and a role she had refused to play, the weapon of a civilization that sought domination. "You were exiled?" he asked cautiously, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," she admitted. "Because I refused to obey. Because I refused to kill innocents, even when my people demanded it." Ethan's mind reeled. "And now, they're after you again." She nodded. "Yes. But now, I'm tethered to you. Which makes this more complicated than it ever should be." Suddenly, a sharp screech echoed through the valley. A massive creature, unlike any they had seen, lunged toward them from the fog, jaws glowing with energy. Ethan froze. Serenia reacted instantly, her hands glowing, shaping energy into a massive shield that slammed the creature back. Sparks flew as the impact shook the ground. Ethan barely moved, stunned by the display of raw, controlled power. She looked at him briefly, voice commanding yet calm. "You need to trust me. If you falter, we fall." He nodded, determination rising despite fear. "I trust you." She gave the faintest nod, and together they ran deeper into the valley, the fog closing around them, hunters in pursuit, and creatures circling. Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. The world was alive, dangerous, and beautiful, and survival depended not just on courage, but on understanding the alien bride at his side. Every step forward bound them closer, not by choice, but by necessity. And somewhere, deep inside, Ethan knew that the line between human and alien, ally and weapon, was about to blur completely. The valley stretched before them like a living nightmare and a dream at once, fog curling around jagged cliffs, strange luminescent flora swaying as if breathing, and the faint hum of energy vibrating through the air. Ethan ran beside Serenia, lungs burning, heart hammering, but the fear that had gripped him earlier was tempered now by something stronger, determination. He had survived this far, and for the first time, he understood the magnitude of the bond tying him to her. The hunters emerged from the fog, dozens of them, their armor glinting like dark metal under alien skies. The lead hunter raised his weapon, a long spear that hummed with concentrated energy, and shouted in a language Ethan didn't understand, but the threat was clear. This was the final confrontation. Serenia stopped abruptly, spinning to face them. The air around her shimmered and pulsed, the energy within her responding to the presence of her enemies. "Ethan, stay behind me," she commanded, but her voice carried no doubt, only authority. "I'm not staying behind." Ethan shouted, gripping the glowing key from his grandfather, which had been pulsing faintly ever since their arrival. "I'm not letting you do this alone." Her eyes softened briefly, a flicker of human warmth breaking through her otherworldly aura. "Then be ready," she said, her tone sharp again. The hunters charged. Serenia moved like a storm incarnate, energy blazing from her hands in waves that shattered rocks and sent creatures fleeing. Ethan followed, dodging debris, trying to match her speed as best he could. The key in his hand vibrated violently, and instinctively he pressed it toward the nearest hunter, feeling a pulse of energy surge through him. A wave of force flung the hunter backward, buying them a precious second. Serenya's power erupted in a dazzling display. The fog itself seemed to recoil as she bent the energy around her, creating barriers and striking at multiple hunters at once. Ethan felt both awe and terror. Her control was absolute, but the strain on her was visible. Her glowing aura flickered with every move, like a star burning too bright for its own stability. One hunter broke through her defenses, aiming directly at Ethan. Serenya reacted instantly, intercepting the attack with a blast of energy that threw both Hunter and Ethan to the ground. Dust filled the air, choking him, but Serenya was already on her feet, extending her hands and sending arcs of power that disarmed the remaining enemies. Ethan scrambled up beside her, adrenaline coursing through his veins. How can you do all that?" he asked, voice hoarse. Her eyes met his, burning like molten silver. "Because I have no choice. And now, neither do you." The remaining hunters regrouped, hesitation flickering across their movements. They were powerful, but the raw force Serenya wielded, and Ethan now partially controlled through the key, was something they had never anticipated. Ethan felt the key pulse stronger than ever, a connection forming between him and Serenya. Energy flowed through him, not fully under his control, but enough to strike at one of the hunters, knocking him back. Together, human and alien moved as one, a team neither could have imagined at the start of this journey. Finally, Serenya raised her hands to the sky. A surge of light radiated outward, blinding, immense, forcing the hunters to shield themselves. When the light dimmed, they were gone, scattered, retreating, unable to challenge them further. Ethan collapsed to his knees, chest heaving, staring at the alien landscape around them. Serenya landed beside him, her glow dimming to a soft, steady light. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, she said quietly, "This world is dangerous. But now, so are we." Ethan nodded, finally understanding. "We're a team," he said. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Serenya's lips curved faintly, the first real smile he had seen. "Yes. Together. But understand this, human, my world, my power, it is not yours to command. You survive by learning, by trusting, by choosing wisely." Ethan looked at her, then at the horizon, the alien world stretching beyond, full of beauty and peril, mystery and power. And for the first time, he felt something he had never felt before, purpose. Together, they stepped forward, leaving the battleground behind. The hunters would return someday, no doubt, but they had survived. And in the heart of a strange, untamed world, a human and an alien bride had forged a bond stronger than fear, stronger than death. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side.